testified. Now, Bongolan, who goes by Bana, is yet another friend of Cassie Ventura. And on direct, she told the jury that Combs dangled her over the 18th floor balcony after a rough, drug-fueled night of partying.
I'm not a lawyer, but let me tell you about the cross-examination of witness Brianna Bongolan from day 16 of the Diddy trial. And I'm going to tell you now, it was clear from the questions that Nicole Westmoreland asked that she was not just trying to show that the events didn't happen the way Brianna said they did. She was actually trying to show jurors that this event didn't happen at all. Nicole Westmoreland starts off having Brianna recall the first time she and Cassie hung out. Brianna testified that it started off with Cassie asking Brianna to come over because they were supposed to be working on design ideas for their t-shirt line. But once she got over there, Brianna suggested that they do a photo shoot of Cassie in the pool with just a t-shirt on. At some point during this hangout, Cassie asks if Brianna gets high, to which Brianna says yes, and then the two of them proceed to do narcotics that day, and it ends up with Brianna spending the night. Nicole Westmoreland highlights that in an interview with prosecutors, Brianna said that she knew her and Cassie were comfortable with each other at the moment Cassie agreed to do the photo shoot in just her t-shirt. And then following that first hangout, Brianna says that she regularly began spending the night at Cassie's house and that the two of them would regularly engage in doing narcotics. She said they would do them together, and they were doing them before Brianna even met Diddy, which the defense says shows Diddy was not forcing Cassie to do them, nor did he control who she was hanging out with. And she acknowledges that the two of them had a serious problem. Westmoreland has Brianna go through a number of different narcotics that she was doing, including something called a Cocoa Puff, which involves sprinkling one narcotic on top of another and then rolling it up, which Brianna says was her fave. Nicole Westmoreland asked Brianna the names of dealers that she would use or that she sent to Cassie's house for Cassie to buy from. And one of them, according to Nicole Westmoreland, was named Ray J. And to this, Brianna said, quote, "I mean, he sounds like the singer, but I don't think it's him." And because names are always being dropped in this trial, Brianna testified that her and Cassie's t-shirt line never ended up working out because she was competing against people like Beyonce and Rihanna, and also they just couldn't work it out with the team working behind them. And Nicole Westmoreland uses this to highlight that the t-shirt line was something Cassie was doing completely separate from Diddy. And she says that to show that Diddy did not control Cassie's career and opportunities as the government says he did. From there, Westmoreland moves into some of the friendships that Brianna has today, to which she says she is still friends with Cassie and the stylist Deontay Nash, and she says that she's spoken to both of them very recently. Westmoreland asks her if they talked about their testimony. Brianna says, no, we knew, what was going on. And then Westmoreland says, you don't need to talk about it. You know what's going on. And then there was an objection. From there, Nicole Westmoreland begins to very directly call out inconsistencies with things Brianna has said. At one point, she said to her, quote, "You don't have to practice the truth, right?" Brianna acknowledged that she spoke to Cassie before and shortly after she filed the lawsuit against Diddy, and she acknowledges that they did discuss the balcony incident. However, Brianna says she doesn't remember telling prosecutors during an interview that she had to tell Cassie that Cassie did actually see Brianna hanging over the balcony that day. And so to refresh her memory, Nicole has her read notes from the interview. Westmoreland also brings up Brianna's earlier testimony when she said she had to tell Cassie the location and timing of the balcony incident as well as who was there. And at this point, most, if not all, of Brianna's answers to Westmoreland's questions become, I don't know, I don't remember, or she repeatedly asks Westmoreland to rephrase the questions. Westmoreland goes on to ask Brianna about the knife throwing incident, specifically asking her if she told prosecutors that Cassie and Diddy would get in knife fights as in plural, but Brianna says she doesn't remember. Westmoreland asked Brianna if she told prosecutors that the incident happened in the kitchen, but Brianna says she was only saying that to suggest where Diddy could have possibly gotten the knife from. And to this, Westmoreland says, quote, "Because what you were saying didn't make sense, right? It doesn't make sense that he came to the door with a knife, threw it, and then left." Westmoreland asked Brianna if she recalls telling prosecutors that Diddy made the "I'm the devil and I could off you" comment at a party versus today testifying that it happened at a photo shoot, but Brianna says she doesn't remember. Westmoreland also highlights that when Brianna first met with prosecutors for this case on January 18, 2024, she never mentioned this photo shoot party "I'm the devil" comment, and the first time it was mentioned was about 2 weeks after that first interview when her then attorney, Tyrone Blackburn, sent a demand letter to Diddy and included this story. From there, Westmoreland spends the remainder of the cross-examination going through more inconsistencies, with Brianna replying that she basically doesn't remember. A few examples includes Brianna telling prosecutors that the balcony incident happened at a party, but today she said it happened in Cassie's apartment when she was sleeping. Brianna apparently told prosecutors when she went on the balcony, she was looking into the apartment and saw Diddy charging directly at her before he put her over the balcony, but today she testified that she was actually looking out at the view. And then in Brianna's demand letters, it was stated that while she was out on the balcony, Diddy intimately assaulted her by groping her chest, but today she didn't mention that part at all. Her demand letter also said that when she was on that balcony, Diddy squeezed her chest so hard that she had a bruise on it, but again, today she didn't mention that. And to give context here, Brianna says part of the reason she fired Tyrone Blackburn is because he was putting things in the demand letters that were not true, and she didn't even know. The final example I'll give is that Westmoreland highlights that in Brianna's civil suit against Diddy regarding this balcony incident, she said that Diddy put her over the balcony, but then she was able to get herself back over the banister, and so Diddy put her over the balcony again, meaning in the lawsuit, she said he did it twice. The testimony wraps up with Brianna saying that she last met with prosecutors 2 days ago, and when Westmoreland says that, according to prosecutors' notes, during that meeting, Brianna told them that she couldn't remember the details of the hotel incident. Brianna responds to this on the stand saying she doesn't remember that. And with that, the day wraps, but Nicole Westmoreland is not done. So Brianna will be back on the stand on day 17 to finish up her cross-examination, and then
Today was day 16 of testimony in the Sean Diddy Combs trial, and boy did it get interesting when Brianna Bongolan took the stand and testified. Now, Bongolan, who goes by Bana, is yet another friend of Cassie Ventura's, and on direct, she told the jury that Combs dangled her over a 17th floor balcony.
I just stepped out of court, and there's a juror in the Diddy trial that does not have a poker face, and her expressions say a lot. Things got off to a slow start this morning, with prosecutors calling Frank Piazza, who's a forensic audio and video editor, to the stand. Once again saw the 2016 hotel attack video, this time frame by frame, with Frank explaining any irregularities in the videos, for example, glitches or timestamp issues. Prosecutors, this is in part a way to get that video again in front of the jury. And then in a drawn-out cross-examination, we watched the video again, frame by frame, to the point where I couldn't help but wonder, was this a strategy by the defense to desensitize the jury by showing them this video repeatedly? Shortly before the lunch break, prosecutors called Brianna Bongolan, who goes by Bana, who's a creative director and once a business partner of Cassie's. Told the court that Diddy allegedly hung her from the side of Cassie's apartment balcony that was on the 17th floor. Told the court that incident left her with night terrors, paranoia, and till this day, she still screams in her sleep. Court that she met Cassie around 2015 when the two were working for the brand Diamond Supply Company, but said that she didn't meet Diddy until a year later because she was avoiding it. She saw the way he kept calling Cassie, and she once saw Cassie with a black eye. A good chunk of her testimony was spent on the drugs that she, Cassie, and their friend group used to do. Molly, coke, marijuana, GHB, ketamine. Said that she and Cassie would hang out a lot and do drugs weekly, stayed at Cassie's apartment. And then recalled 2 instances where she says Diddy burst into Cassie's apartment in a rage. One of those times she says that she was sleeping on the couch and Diddy burst through the door. Brianna says she ran out to the balcony to get out of the way and act nonchalant. She says Diddy came onto the balcony screaming at her, saying, "You know what you effing did." When she says he picked her up and hung her over the balcony. Says she was using her feet to push back against the ledge. And then she says as Cassie rushed over with a look of disbelief, he tossed her into the balcony furniture. In court, prosecutors showed a picture of her leg that she says she took at the time with a fat bruise. Brianna then says she went to the chiropractor, and there was another picture shown in court of her back with bandages all over and her in a neck brace. It was time for the cross-examination. Things got intense. Questioning Brianna was Diddy's attorney, Nicole Westmoreland. Her voice booms into the microphone and commands the room, and she has a slight southern twang. Brianna, on the other hand, was very soft-spoken. It was difficult to hear her at times. Westmoreland walks to the podium. Diddy whispers something in her ear, and then she smiles. Very early on, Westmoreland zeroes in on the drugs. Then one by one. How did marijuana make you feel? How did coke make you feel? How did ketamine make you feel? Ever been in a K-hole? Turn to the jury and explain what a cocoa puff is, which apparently I learned is marijuana with a sprinkle of coke. Westmoreland goes, "That was one of your faves, right? One of Cassie's faves?" Westmoreland then suggested it must have been difficult trying to get any work done when you guys were doing drugs on a weekly, if not daily basis. And then she dug in deeper to Cassie and Brianna's relationship. Westmoreland was kind of teetering on the line of suggesting that it was romantic. but she never quite went there. And the reason I started to think that was because of her wording. For example, she wanted to say that Brianna and Cassie started working together again, but she said, you hooked back up in 2023. You got back together in 2023. And then prosecutors called a sidebar. By the way, when a sidebar is called so that we don't hear the conversations happening between the attorneys and the judge, they play a white noise machine. As Moreland came back, she said, you started talking with Cassie in 2023. You started working with Cassie in 2023, changing her wording and emphasizing those words. The rest of Westmoreland's questioning was from right before Cassie filed her lawsuit all the way until present day. And that's because Brianna said on the stand today that she and Cassie are still close. In fact, Cassie texted her today. Brianna says that she didn't answer. Celebrity stylist Deontay Nash also, she said, texted her today and she didn't answer. Testified that Cassie called her shortly before filing her bombshell lawsuit, and in fact included Brianna in that lawsuit. And then Westmoreland said, you talked to Cassie about filing a lawsuit, and then you went and got yourself some lawyers to sue Mr. Combs. To which Brianna responded, I got a lawyer to seek justice. And then Westmoreland said, seeking justice is suing Mr. Combs? And I could see a juror in the second row just smirking. And that wasn't the only time. Throughout the cross-examination, I could see this juror making facial expressions. At one point, I saw her scoff, turn to the guy next to her, raise her eyebrows, and go. Another time, she makes eye contact with a juror in front of her, presses her lips, raises her eyebrows, and moves her head up. It looked like this. I'll go more in depth into the cross-examination in another video, so please stay tuned. I just stepped out of court, and there is a
It is Wednesday, day 16 in the Diddy trial, and you know I've got the details. Who can we expect to take the stand today? First, Frank Piazza, a forensic video expert. His testimony is important because, as you know, Diddy claims that the government has edited the video from the hotel. And we're also supposed to hear from Brianna Bangolan, and this is the person who Diddy dangled over a balcony. Brianna is a former friend of Cassie's, and she has also asked for immunity, which was granted. So her testimony will be interesting to see why she has asked for immunity. First witness to take the stand is Frank Piazza, forensic video expert, and his task is basically to authenticate the footage from the hotel with Cassie. He testifies that there are no anomalies in this disturbing footage. He's confirming the video's authenticity and walking the court through versions he stitched together, showing events as they happened in chronological order. The prosecution also filed into evidence, which is under seal, 10 SMEX videos involving Cassie. The defense attorney asked why there are certain parts of the video that seem to jump or are missing time, and the forensic expert explained that motion triggers a timestamp change in this camera system. Although a person might be visible in the frame, the motion activates the camera and sometimes does not update the timestamp. Defense attorney then points out that these surveillance cameras don't all have the same timestamps. The forensic expert said that the cameras are not linked to the same internal clock, but he said he was able to sync the footage based on overlapping events. Next to take the stand is Brianna Bangolan. Brianna testified that Sean held her over a 17th-story balcony in 2016 before throwing her onto the balcony's furniture. The mental effects of this assault left her with night terrors. She would wake up screaming. Cassie had also mentioned this balcony incident in her 2023 lawsuit against Sean. Brianna describes Cassie as one of her close friends. She says that she was in a relationship with Sean when she first met Cassie, but she didn't meet Sean until a year later. I wasn't really fond of what I was seeing, so I wasn't wanting to meet him. She said she had seen Cassie with a black eye before and had seen her upset while on the phone with Sean numerous times. She testified about a 2016 shopping trip that her and Cassie were on, and Sean sent Cassie a list of all the places that they had been that day, even though neither one of them had told him where they were. Brianna testified that she saw Sean throw a knife at Cassie during a violent outburst at Cassie's apartment. Apparently, this happens in the middle of the night. Cassie picks up the knife and hurls it back at Sean. Both their throws missed. Brianna also testified about a time that Sean threatened her while they were at one of Cassie's photo shoots on the beach in 2016. He came up close to my face and said something along the lines of, "I'm the devil and I could kill you." She says, "I was terrified, but because of the white powder use, I had a little confidence and just brushed it off." At this point, they break for lunch. Brianna's going to be back on the stand after the break. We're also supposed to hear from victim number 2.
Cross-examination did not finish today. They will pick up tomorrow, which will start at 11 a.m., meaning I will not have an update video maybe until noon tomorrow, but let's get into what happened. Now, the defense attorney's first question was, "You have immunity as long as you tell the truth, correct?" And she said yes. Because of this, Vonna did say, "I don't know," a lot. And you have to remember, a lot of these incidents happened many years ago. She admitted she was doing a lot of substances. Maybe her memory is foggy. She doesn't want to guess. She's saying, "I don't know," to keep herself safe and so that she doesn't say something that turns out to be not true. Does not mean she's lying. It means she's protecting herself. So let's get into their questions. Definitely tried to attack her character, painting her as a heavy substance user from things like Snow, K, X, Cocoa Puffs, which apparently is Mary J with Snow. Not only that, because Percocet was named, as well as Vicodin and G. She was very forthcoming, saying, "Yes, we had a problem. Yes, I sold often to Cassie. And yes, sometimes she was getting her hundreds of pills." She brought up her old streetwear career and how it failed, saying, "Isn't it hard to be productive when you're high every day?" It was objected and sustained. Now, remember in her testimony, she said she had an attorney to help her sue Diddy, but that attorney got fired after sending letters to Diddy with incorrect information. Well, all of that was brought up. The defense attorney was trying to poke holes in her balcony incident story because the letters said one thing. What she said on the stand was another. They claim she said something else to the prosecutor during their interviews, and she said, "Was it a hotel that it happened at? Was it Cassie's apartment? Were you smoking a cigarette? Were you smoking Mary J? Did you take your girlfriend to the bathroom? Was she already in there?" She was also asked, when he dangled you over the balcony, did he say, "I could unalive you?" And she said he said that, just not at that time. "My lawyer got that wrong, and that's why I fired him." The defense attorney then said, "Cassie told you she never saw you over a balcony?" To which she responded saying, "No, ma'am, I don't remember." Then the attorney laughs and says, "All right here, read this page, then look up. You had these conversations." Vonna says, "I don't know." The defense attorney then says, "About the alleged balcony incident, you and Miss Ventura talked about the date, the place, who was there." She said, "True." He tried to imply that both Cassie and Vonna were trying to coordinate their stories because she asked her, "You're aware that Cassie put the balcony incident in her lawsuit?" And she said yes. Vonna also admitted that Cassie had told her to name Cassie in the lawsuit, and she said no, she wasn't going to. She was also asked about the many meetings she had with the prosecutors and asked, "Why didn't you mention the 'I could unalive you' line in the first meeting?" And she answered saying, "I don't remember when I said it." Diddy's attorney then asked, "The alleged knife throwing incident, he just walked in and threw a knife?" And she said, "I'm not sure." Diddy's attorney then said, "Didn't you tell the government they would get into knife fights, plural?" And she says, "I don't remember." The attorney then says, "Let me show you." So she looks it over and says, "I was suggesting where the knife came from." Diddy's attorney says, "Because it makes no sense. You're saying you don't know how he got in to throw the knife, but once he's left, you're no longer worried?" She said, "I don't remember how I felt." And the attorney continues, "You say at a photo shoot, Mr. Combs said, 'I could unalive you?' Yes. But at first you told the government it was a party." "I don't know." He was then asked, "The balcony incident, didn't you tell the government there was a party in the apartment?" She said, "I don't remember that." "You told the government you recalled he was charging at you?" She said, "I don't remember." "Didn't you first say that Mr. Combs SA'd you on the balcony?" And she said, "I showed them where his hands were." She was then asked about whether or not she said he groped her, and she said, "My lawyer said that." It just kept going. "Didn't you tell the prosecutors 2 days ago that you couldn't remember what happened on the balcony?" "I don't remember." "Do you remember what substances you were on?" "No." She was asked, "Didn't you tell the government you took Molly, geez, no?" She said, "That's a lot of substances." Then she was asked, "Didn't you take them all?" "Not all that night." The judge stopped the questioning because it hit 4 o'clock. Again, they're not going to start back up until 11 a.m. tomorrow. She will be back on the stand, and I'm sure she will give a lot more. I don't know. The defense do a good job at discrediting her. One might look at it that way. Personally, I don't think so. She did admit to doing a lot of substances. Her memory will be foggy. And at the end of the day, the core story remains that Diddy allegedly held her over the balcony. I will be back with more of her testimony tomorrow, likely around noon. Cross-examination did not finish today. They will pick up tomorrow, which will start at 11 a.m., meaning I will not have an
These were expensive, right?
They are expensive.
Now,
and then dangled her off of the balcony, and he was yelling at her, you know what the bleep you did? You know what the bleep you did? Hey everyone, wrapping up day.
I think day 16 of the Diddy trial is the darkest one. Today, they showed the jury in the courtroom videos of Diddy dragging, assaulting, kicking Cassie. And then they had an expert confirm that the videos were real, no edits, no cuts.
Day 16 Diddy trial. I just posted the first video, which was a lot of back and forth before the jury came out. And now the government has called Frank Piazza. Witnesses in a suit, sworn in. AUSA, where do you work? Legal, audio, and video. AUSA, have you testified before? Piazza, mostly criminal matters. I've also done some civil and dispositions. AUSA, have you been qualified as an expert? Piazza, 50 times. AUSA, we move to qualify Mr. Piazza as an expert. Defense, no objection. Judge, he's an expert. AUSA, how many times have you worked for SDNY? Piazza, 50 or 100. AUSA, does that impact your testimony? Piazza, no. I do 75% defense work. AUSA, are you being paid? What is your hourly rate? Piazza, $295. Yes. AUSA, you analyze cell phone videos and surveillance videos. Piazza, yes. AUSA, let me show you. Video of a towel Combs kicking Cassie on the ground is shown. AUSA, what is the frame rate? Piazza, frame per second. It can pause the video to have more info per second. Piazza, this cell phone video of the video was shot on an iPhone 6.3 frames a second. It was not edited or tampered with, I found. AUSA, did you reach a conclusion? Piazza, they are accurate. AUSA, and their surveillance.
Today was all about Mia. Mia was a damn joke. I told you guys Mia was a joke yesterday because she was looking down the entire time. Looking down the entire time, and I knew I couldn't figure it out, but I was like, I'm going to get to know her. Once the defense calls her, I'm going to be able to see right through her. But even still through her testimony, I wasn't really getting with it. I think I was getting to the point where I was like throwing my hands up. I was like, stop even writing for a second. But I'm going to paraphrase everything. But just so you guys understand where we're going with this, the quick summarized version of this, in my mind, Mia is upset that she got fired. This is her get back. Diddy's back is against the wall, and so she's going to drag it and put it on a little bit thicker than what it was. When it comes to Cassie, I do believe that things are true. The things that Mia are stating that Diddy has done to her aren't all true. Was Diddy a jerk? Was he an a-hole? Did he probably disrespect you and curse you out and maybe pop you? But Grape You, SAU, I'm not buying. And I'm going to tell you why. Today was all about Mia. Mia was a damn joke. I told you.
Fashion designer and a close friend to Cassie, Brianna Bongolan, who goes by Bonna, took the stand to testify that Diddy, yes, did dangle her over the balcony on the 17th floor of Cassie's apartment. After dangling her, she said he threw her on the balcony furniture and she walked away with a bruise on her leg, pain in her neck and her head, and wakes up from night terrors to this day, saying it still haunts her in her sleep. She talked about the fact that she had met Cassie in 2013 at a streetwear company and they became really close friends. In terms of Cassie's relationship with Diddy, she said it was volatile, that she had seen Cassie with a black eye and said that she did not want to meet Diddy right away, but eventually met him him because Cassie kept begging her. Remember, she is a fashion designer, so she said she did design for Diddy just a little bit and then talked about her friendship with Cassie, how they did do substances, and also liked to shop. Then talked about a time in 2016 where she thought she was alone with Cassie, they were shopping, and Diddy had text Cassie saying, "Where are you?" and then text her a list of everywhere they had been that day. She said, "We didn't tell him where we were, he just knew," and her thoughts were, "Oh my God, he knows where we've been." When asked whenever she slept at Cassie's, where did she sleep, she said on the couch or on the balcony, and then she talked about a time where Diddy showed up unannounced, banging on the door, and then he came in. Said she didn't know how Diddy ended up coming in, but he threw a knife in Cassie's direction, she threw it back towards him, and then he left. Asked why she didn't call the police, she simply said she was scared. Then talked about how Cassie had FaceTimed her, and this was after the hotel incident, and she said that Cassie was getting ready for the premiere and she was bruised. She said when Cassie FaceTimed her, it was before she had makeup on and she was getting ready for the Perfect Match premiere, and she had a black eye. When asked if Diddy had provided her substances, she said yes, one called G. I have no idea what that is. I'm not an avid user. He also provided K, Mary J, as well as Snow. Also said that she would often pick up oxy pills for Cassie and that Cassie would pay. She also admitted that she had sold substances to others and one time sold Snow to Diddy. She did say that she and Cassie did try to quit, saying we'd try to cook, keep things normal, but there were a lot of substances around. The prosecutor then showed her a photo of herself with someone named Bad Boy, but boy with an I, and it was from April of 2016, and she said that Diddy got into her face that day and he told her, "I am the devil and I could unalive you." It was written that she was seemingly sobbing at this point, but that's unsure. And then she was asked if you were taking any substances that day, and she said probably Snow. Asked if she continued to see Diddy after that, she said yes, but she doesn't know why. And then she was asked if she told the government about this threat when they first met, and she said no, and this is where they ended. For the lunch break, she will be back on the stand after, and that's when I will come back to update you guys. Fashion designer and a close friend to Cassie, Brianna.
Day 16 of the Diddy trial was once again a wild one, and I've got the afternoon transcript. Let's get straight into it. Once again, this is coming from Matthew Russell Lee over at Inner City Press. Again, this is not the full transcript of what is said. These are just quick notes that he can write to try to give us an update of what's going on. So we really appreciate Matthew over here. I support him on Patreon. I support him on all of his platforms, making sure that I'm paying for it because he does work hard, not just on this trial, but every trial that is coming out of the Southern District of New York, because they do not allow cameras in the courtroom, okay? So it's really important the work that he's doing and that we support independent, small reporters, journalists, creators, because they are the ones that make a difference. Now, speaking of Patreon, as you guys know, I've been getting censored like crazy. Over here on this channel, every time I upload, it's like my video is struck down immediately and I have to.
Fashion designer and a close friend to Cassie, Brianna Bongolan, who goes by Bonna, took the stand to testify that Diddy, yes, did dangle her over the balcony on the 17th floor of Cassie's apartment. After dangling her, she said he threw her on the balcony furniture and she walked away with a bruise on her leg, pain in her neck and her head, and wakes up from night terrors to this day, saying it still haunts her in her sleep. She talked about the fact that she had met Cassie in 2013 at a streetwear company and they became really close friends. In terms of Cassie's relationship with Diddy, she said it was volatile, that she had seen Cassie with a black eye, and said that she did not want to meet Diddy right away, but eventually met him because Cassie kept begging her. Remember, she is a fashion designer, so she said she did design for Diddy just a little bit, and then talked about her friendship with Cassie, how they did do substances, and also liked to shop. Then talked about a time in 2016 where she thought she was alone with Cassie. The fashion designer and a close friend to Cassie, Brianna Bongolan, who goes by Bonna, took the stand.
Child, Diddy's lawyers tried to say the assault video wasn't reliable because the security system was cheap. But the expert shut that the hell down, okay? So let's talk about the cross-examination of the expert witness. Diddy's lawyer, Garagos, came in swinging on cross-examination. So she pressed Frank about where he got the security footage. He replied, the U.S. Attorney's Office gave it to me. So then she said, but who gave it to them? He said, I don't know. That's when they tried to discredit the footage by saying that he had called the hotel security footage or security setup cheap. He said, in a way, yes, but I don't recall saying cheap exactly. So then Diddy's defense team tried to show a video that was considered unreliable because the timestamp on the video jumped around. They replayed videos of Cassie being kicked and the timestamp would jump around. So Frank explained that that's due to buffering and that the system has motion activation, meaning the video wouldn't always be continuous if there was nothing going on in frame. Some clips had 10-second gaps, others had like 5-second gaps. But he clarified that the footage still accurately represents the events that took place. That's when they had pointed out the ghost-like figure. It was like a distorted image on the hallway footage. That's when Diddy's attorney tried to imply manipulation, but the witness, or Piazza, broke it down. He says static security cameras use GOP format. GOP means group of pictures, just in case y'all were wondering. So what that means is only motion would trigger new data. Kind of like, you know how Ring cameras in your house, if you're on away mode, it don't trigger anything unless you walk past that camera like that. And that's why objects don't move, like it almost seems like they glitch. So then they asked him, well, why don't we see ghosts in the phone video? He said because the iPhone video quality wasn't high enough. But child, after all that grilling by the defense, he didn't budge at all. And then on recross, the prosecution came back and all that they did was confirm. They asked him that even with the video gaps, does it accurately and reliably depict what happened? And he answered yes. The judge dismissed him. Just like that, I feel like Diddy's legal team failed to shake his testimony. Comment Chief System if you think the defense was reaching with that. Part 3.
Hey, you guys, I know a lot of people have sides in this case. I know a lot of people are pro Diddy, and I know a lot of people are pro prosecution. Was Diddy abusive? Was he crazy? I mean, with all the evidence that's coming out, yes. However, we have to stick to the facts. In the cross-examination today of Cassie's friend, Bana, I think the defense went in on her. Now, she had a few clapbacks and she held her ground and she was pretty steady compared to the girl Mia. However, this whole situation with all of them being friends is starting to take a little bit of a left turn, in my opinion, for the prosecution. So the fact that they have all been communicating during the trial, before they testify, after one person testifies, it's just not a good look for the prosecution and the witnesses. Now, she did testify and say that she has spoken to Cassie prior to her testifying and after Cassie testified. So basically right now we have Cassie, Mia, Deontay, and now this girl, Bana, are all friends and have all had different incidents with Diddy. They've either had incidents together, all three of them at one time, two of them at one time, individually. It's just starting to look like, not that they're trying to put a story together to take him down, but it just does not look very good to me for the prosecution with these witnesses that happen to have a relationship. All four of them are pretty tight friends. So here you have the young lady, Bana, who testified today on behalf of the prosecution. Her particular background is that she was friends with Cassie and they met at some Young and Restless clothing event. She's some type of fashion designer. And of course, everybody knows Cassie started out modeling. She continued to model and act. She stated that they decided to collab on a clothing brand, but it fell through. She also testified that she was pretty much Cassie's rug supplier. She supplied pills and all types of other rugs for Cassie and for Diddy as well. She pretty much gave you the impression during her testimony is that she never liked Diddy in the first place. She said that Cassie would always want her to meet Diddy and she always declined. She mentioned that her and Cassie were out and about shopping and Diddy knew each and every store that they had been to. So basically saying that Diddy kept tight tabs on Cassie. So maybe he had a tracker in her car or something. I'm not sure, but that's pretty much how she made it seem. Like he just had close knit tabs on Cassie at all times. She also testified and said that Diddy came to Cassie's home one night and banged on the door, came in, threw a knife at Cassie, and then Cassie threw the knife back. Now, I'm not sure if she was at a party or that she was just having like a small get-together or what have you. She stated that she had finally met Diddy at his home at a dinner party. And she also stated that how she saw bruises on Cassie's face and all over her body. Then she got to the big bombshell of her testimony. Her bombshell part of her testimony was that Diddy picked her up by the underarms, held her over a 17-story balcony, and was yelling and cursing at her. She said that she weighs like 115 pounds, and after Diddy held her and dangled her over the 17th floor balcony, he pulled her back up and threw her across Cassie's balcony into her furniture. And this was her in court describing, and this was the balcony that he hung her over. Now, she doesn't clarify why he did it, if they were at a party. However, they're not done cross-examining her. The defense is not done cross-examining her. But she just never clarified why he did it. Were they arguing? Were they fighting? I mean, that's really up in the air. I didn't get the clarity. I don't know if anyone else clarified why he dangled her over the balcony. But for some reason, her and Diddy just had this weird beef. She said she was bruised up. She had a horrible bruise on her leg. She went to a chiropractor. She didn't go to the hospital. And she ended up with like a neck brace on her body. Now, again, I'm not sure about this witness. I don't understand the dynamic of the friendship with Diddy and Cassie. It seemed like her and Diddy had an issue with one another. However, I mean, it is a bombshell testimony that Diddy like literally hung her over a 17th floor balcony. Why, we don't know. She is still on the stand and will continue to be cross-examined by the defense tomorrow. So that was
So here we are. We start the day. And we start, where, she talked about how Diddy would her. But, she had good times with Diddy after he would her. She loved some of the people that she worked with. They called each other family. Now I knew why. Now I'm seeing why the prosecution set it up this way, because they knew that she was going to get dragged. Okay, so she's trying to set it up like she still stayed after the essay. She still stayed after the grade. She loved them. She loved the job. She loved. They were family. She even dated one of Diddy's employees, Matt Testa. He was a sound engineer, but they didn't have a traditional style relationship. Their relationship was more like they lived in the apartment together. However, they were always at Diddy's house. When she was at home, he wasn't at home. When he was at home, she wasn't at home. She always had to work like she was a slave. But she would still tell Diddy, I love you. She was still sending messages. This is her story as the prosecution is, going through her testimony.
Day 15 of the criminal trial against Sean Combs. This afternoon, prosecutors said that another outlet has identified Mia. This is the victim that had testified using a pseudonym for her safety. However, due to her tight ties with Cassie Ventura, it was not that difficult for some members of the public, some dreamers, to identify her. The government has asked that the judge in the case order that the post on X IDing Mia be removed, and then this second source being barred from the courthouse, meaning they'll be barred from going inside here. There's been a lot of public interest in the case. There's been streamers out front. Tomorrow, we'll be hearing from Brianna Bongalang, who has previously alleged that Combs sexually battered her as a former employee. We are also expected to hear from Jane, That's another female victim of Combs who will be testifying under a pseudonym as well, just like Mia. It remains to be seen how Jane's identity is handled by the press and if her name is outed within perhaps hours of her testimony, much like we saw happen with Mia. Day 15 of the criminal trial against Sean Combs. This afternoon, prosecutors said
Jay as well as Snow. Also said that she would often pick up oxy pills for Cassie and that Cassie would pay. She also admitted that she had sold substances to others and one time sold Snow to Diddy. She did say that she and Cassie did try to quit, saying we'd try to cook, keep things normal, but there were a lot of substances around. The prosecutor then showed her a photo of herself with someone named Bad Boy, but Boy with an I, and it was from April of 2016, and she said that Diddy got into her face that day and he told her, I am the devil and I could unalive you. It was written that she was seemingly sobbing at this point, but that's unsure, and then she was asked if you were taking any substances that day, and she said probably Snow. Asked if she continued to see Diddy after that, she said yes, but she doesn't know why. And then she was asked if she told the government about this threat when they first met, and she said no, and this is where they ended. For the lunch break, she will be back on the stand after, and that's when I will come back to update you guys. Jay. And she said she didn't feel the pain right away, but then she went home and took a shower, and that's when she noticed a bruise. She said it was a baseball-sized bruise with a puncture in the middle, and she had pain in her neck and her head. As the prosecutors showed a photo of her bruise to the jury, she talked about the fact that she had called her manager, and they told her, if you're scared of your pain or injuries, go get it checked out. So she went to the chiropractor that same day. At the chiropractors, they asked who had hurt her. She did not say. She just paid for the neck brace and left. She said a day or two later, she was on FaceTime with Diddy, and she said he didn't say much, just looked at the camera, then away, hands on his head, breathing heavy, and she told him, I don't want any problems with you. Since that day, she suffers from nightmares, paranoia, screaming in her sleep, and because of that, she checks outside of her home every time she leaves. Asked if she remembers the last time she saw Diddy, she said yes, because she has that date tattooed. It was January 2nd of 2018, where she, Cassie, and Diddy spent 8 hours doing K at the one hotel in Miami for some New Year's thing, and she said she didn't feel the pain right away, but then she went home and took a shower, and that's when she noticed a bruise. She said it was a baseball-sized bruise with a puncture in the middle, and she had pain in her After the lunch break, Bono was back on the stand to testify what happened to her the day of the balcony. She said it was September of 2016 when she was at Cassie's sleeping on the balcony with her ex-girlfriend when Diddy suddenly, in the middle of the night, started banging on the door. She said she didn't want to expose her ex to the things that she had seen, so she hid her in the bathroom and then walked back out to the balcony to act like everything was normal. She was about to light up a blunt when Diddy came up behind her, put his arms under her armpits, lifted her, and dangled her over the railing with her legs dangling. She said she's 5'1", about 115 pounds, and he was screaming at her, you know what the F you did, over and over again. She had no idea what he was talking about, and she just said, I don't know what the F I did. He then threw her on the balcony furniture, and Cassie ran to him saying, did you just hang her over the balcony? Her girlfriend's in the house. He left, she left, and she said she didn't feel the pain right away, but then she went home and took a shower, and that's when she noticed a bruise. She said it was a baseball-sized bruise with a puncture in the middle, and she had pain in her neck and her head. As the prosecutors showed a photo of her bruise to the jury, she talked about the fact that she had called her manager, and they told her, if you're scared of your pain or injuries, go get it checked out. So she went to the chiropractor that same day. At the chiropractors, they asked who had hurt her. She did not say. She just paid for the neck brace and left. She said a day or two later, she was on FaceTime with Diddy, and she said he didn't say much, just looked at the camera, then away, hands on his head, breathing heavy, and she told him, I don't want any problems with you. Since that day, she suffers from nightmares, paranoia, screaming in her sleep, and because of that, she checks outside of her home every time she leaves. Asked if she remembers the last time she saw Diddy, she said yes, because she has that date tattooed. It was January 2nd of 2018, where she, Cassie, and Diddy spent 8 hours doing K at the one hotel in Miami for some New Year's thing, and that was the day she decided to get sober. She was then asked if she was aware that Cassie had put the balcony incident in her lawsuit, and she said yes, but I told her she got the details wrong because it did not happen at a hotel. When asked if she had hired a lawyer for the balcony incident, she said yes, and the demand was for $10 million. She said the first attorney that she hired was in January of 2024, who chose the demand amount and sent letters to Diddy that were incorrect, so she fired him. When asked if people had reached out to her after the fact, she said said yes, Tiffany, Cassie, and her friend at the time, Rob Holiday. Rob Holiday was also friends with Diddy, and she said she received a FaceTime call from him when he was at Diddy's home. She alleges that he told her he was calling on behalf of Diddy to offer a settlement amount, and she declined that offer. After that FaceTime call, she said she's never talked to Rob again. They are now doing cross-examination, so I will be back with that update. After the lunch break,
Y'all know what time it is. It's another Diddy day where we are going over the Diddy trial. And we got a dangling over the balcony today. And no, before you think about it, we're not talking about this one. That's a little old. We're not doing that. We have a friend of Cassie's who has been dangled over the balcony from Diddy. Her name, Brianna Bongler. She was Cassie's friend. Is Cassie's friend. She took the stand today to talk about more threats by Diddy. Not only did she claim that she got dangled off of the balcony, but she also got thrown into furniture by Diddy. She even witnessed Diddy throwing a knife at Cassie. Can't make that up. They go back and forth. They talk about how her and Cassie has done drugs together, and the defense, of course, makes her paint it out to be the and I mean, they grill her hard. They make sure to mention, hey, if you're drugs, how do you know you need? All in all, the majority got any comments, concerns? Please leave them in the comments. And I will be back tomorrow.
Court just finished up, and I'm here outside of Manhattan Courthouse on day 16 of Diddy's trial, where Cassie's friend Brianna Bongler testified that Diddy hung her over a 17-story balcony. Brianna said that she was at Cassie's apartment in 2016 when Diddy began pounding on the door. He then rushed in and apparently grabbed her from behind. She said he lifted her up and put her on the railing. She then said he was screaming, quote, "You know what the F you did," but she claimed she had no idea what he was referring to. The jury were bruises to her body, and she said she didn't report the incident to police out of fear. Diddy's team then came in hot during cross-examination, with his lawyer Nicole Westmoreland coming for her credibility by claiming she's changed her story. Brianna admitted she and Cassie would do drugs at least once a week and said she once sold Cassie 100 pills at once. Bongler has sued the rapper in a separate case for $10 million, accusing him of sexual battery and physical abuse. She'll be back on the stand for the rest of cross-examination on Thursday. Make sure to listen to the Trial Diddy podcast for more updates wherever you get your podcasts. Court just finished up, and I'm here outside of Manhattan Courthouse. Court just finished up, and I'm here outside of Manhattan Courthouse on day 16 of Diddy's trial, where Cassie's friend Brianna Bongler testified that Diddy hung her over a 17-story. Brianna said that she was at Cassie's apartment in 2016 when Diddy began pounding on the door. He then rushed in and apparently grabbed her from behind. She said he lifted her up and put her on the railing. She then said he was screaming, quote, "You know what the F you did," but she claimed she had no idea what he was referring to. The jury were shown photos of deep bruises to her body, and she said she didn't report the incident to police out of fear. Diddy's team then came in hot during cross-examination, with his lawyer Nicole Westmoreland coming for her credibility by claiming she's changed her story. Brianna admitted she and Cassie would do drugs at least once a week and said she once sold Cassie 100 pills at once. Bongler has sued the rapper in a separate case for $10 million, accusing battery and physical abuse. She'll be back on the stand for the rest of cross-examination on Thursday. Listen to the Trial Diddy podcast for more updates.
And they said, why? And she said, well,
Diddy trial took a dark turn today because a witness testified that one time Diddy allegedly hung her off a 17-story balcony, then one time looked her in the eye and said, "I am the devil and I could kill you." So it's day 15 of the Diddy trial and Brianna Bongolan took the stand and testified. She was a very close friend of Cassie Ventura, but the things that she said sounded like it was straight out of a nightmare. She told jurors that in 2016, while sleeping at Cassie's LA apartment, she woke up to Diddy banging on the door. When she stepped onto the balcony, she says Diddy lifted her up from behind and hung her on the railing for 10 to 15 seconds. She said he was screaming, "You know what the F you did." Bongolan says she had no idea what he meant. Then he threw her onto the balcony furniture. Cassie came running out of the bedroom in shock and asked Diddy, "Did you really hang her off the balcony?" And then jurors were shown a picture of a bruise Bongolan got from the attack. And this wasn't the only time that she saw him snap. She said one time she woke up to Diddy pointing a knife at Cassie and ended up throwing it at her. He ended up missing, but it was very close. And then Cassie actually ended up picking up the knife and throwing it back, but she missed. And last but not least, probably one of the creepiest stories she said during a beach shoot in Malibu, she says Diddy got in her face and said, "I'm the devil and I could kill you." When Combs' lawyer tried to paint this woman unreliable, asking if she was high on Molly, Coke, or GHB that night, Bongolan denied being on any drugs and stuck to her story. Wild day in the courtroom, and she's going to testify even more tomorrow, so stay tuned for what's happening tomorrow because no cameras are allowed inside this courtroom. The Diddy trial took a dark turn today because a witness testified that one time
He finished up the direct examination.
Hey, Gene. How you doing? I'm good. Good to see you.
When Walken asked, "Who?" the man vanished. The incident was never explained.
Yeah, timestamps aside, does this video...
Day 16 of the Diddy trial has revealed some of the most shocking claims yet. A former assistant, testifying under the name Mia, took the stand and described nearly 8 years of alleged abuse while working for Diddy between 2009 and 2000.
When asked by the prosecutor what happened after he got out,
He dangled me from a 17th floor balcony. Whew, that's the crazy testimony that came out of court today. Hi, I'm Melda Pearson, also known as the resident legal diva, and it's time for another Daily Diddy, giving you daily trial updates from the P. Diddy trial every day until we get a verdict. So today is day 15. It is June 4th. Shout out to Judge Stacy Glick out of Miami, who was like, hey, we need some dates because it doesn't always show up in order in our timeline. So there you have it. Hopefully it's helpful for everyone. So first off, we started the day with Brianna Bongolan. Hopefully I'm not mispronouncing her name. She was a friend of Cassie's. She got on the stand and invoked her Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. It's basically one of those things that's just a procedural thing. She got up, she said that, the prosecution got up and said, as long as you testify truthfully, you're not going to have an issue. So that was that. So the first witness that actually testified today was Frank Piazza, and he is a forensic video expert. So he testified about that ever-present video of Diddy beating Cassie at the Intercontinental in LA, and he basically testified that the video was not altered, and he went frame by frame showing the jury and talking about all the different aspects that showed that this was not an edited video, that this was a true and accurate portrayal of what happened. It gave the jury yet another opportunity to see the video of Cassie being brutalized, again reminding them of what a monster Diddy is, basically. Does that mean he's guilty of everything else? Separate question, but in that instance, he was clearly a monster. And so also 10 sex videos of Cassie were introduced into evidence. Now they were introduced under seal, meaning that they were not viewed by the jury or the court in that time. It was just basically the witness talking about that these videos also were not edited as well and that they were accurate portrayals of the event. Next up was Brianna Bongalon, and she testified that Diddy held her over a 17th story balcony in 2016 before he threw her into the balcony's furniture. She talked about the mental after effects of the assault, which left her with night terrors. She was screaming in her sleep, and she was just completely traumatized. Now, Cassie had mentioned this incident in her direct examination without actually naming Brianna. And this was also was also mentioned in the 2023 lawsuit against Diddy. And so it was very interesting because Brianna talked about, of course, the toxic relationship and the brutal relationship between Cassie and Diddy. Talked about a time that Diddy threw a knife at Cassie. It missed. Cassie then picked it up, threw it back at him. It also missed. So again, shows you a lot of the problematic dynamics. Also, Brianna said that Diddy did something else that was very another time, Diddy allegedly told Brianna something along the lines of, "I am the devil and I can kill you." And he said this while he was high on cocaine. She then went back to the actual incident that she was basically on the stand to testify to, that Diddy dangled her over a 17-story balcony for about 10 to 15 seconds while yelling, "You know what the F you did, you know what you did." And she's like, "Dude, I got no clue what you're talking about. I don't know what you think it is that I did." And so at that point, he allegedly came up behind her, had lifted her above his chest to hold her up against the balcony. She's trying to escape, but she didn't want to push back too hard because she was afraid that with all of the movement, she would go over and that would be the end of her. And also at the time, she was 5'1" and about 100 to 115 pounds. And of course, Diddy being much larger and bigger than her, it was, apparently Cassie was in the next room but didn't see the incident, but she was present for the aftermath with, Brianna being shaken and all of the conversation after that. A day or two after this incident, Brianna got a FaceTime call from either Diddy or someone on his team. She told the court that she repeatedly said over and over again, "I don't want any problems with Diddy. I don't want any problems at all." On the call, Diddy didn't really say much. He just basically had his hand over his head while just basically staring into camera, really bizarre. And so again, she had the night terrors, screamed in her sleep. She always now as a result had feelings of paranoia. Even in her own home, checking around corners and all of that out of fear. She sued for $10 million. She sued Diddy for $10 million to get justice over what happened. But she said on direct examination to the prosecution, "I'd trade all that money in the world for this to have never happened to me." It was that bad, just awful. So on cross-examination, she admitted to very heavy drug use during that time, that she, Cassie, Diddy, all of them just used a lot of different substances. And of course, the defense attorney took that opportunity to be like, "So you don't really remember how all of it went down. You can't tell us what side Diddy came on, or the exact chain of events that caused this to happen." And she's like, "No, I don't remember. I don't remember. I don't remember." Again, keeping in mind this is something that's very traumatizing. She probably tried to block it out of her mind. And yes, she may have been altered. Does that mean she deserved for that to happen to her? Absolutely not. So she'll be back on the stand again tomorrow for additional cross-examination, and then we'll see who
Late this afternoon, Derek Ferguson, the former CFO of Bad Boy Entertainment, Chief Financial Officer, took the stand, and he was able to confirm through financial records what Cassie Ventura's mother testified to a couple of weeks ago, and that is that she wired $20,000 to Bad Boy, and that money was returned back to her 4 days later. The defense spent time during Ferguson's testimony putting up charts of a lot of people who worked for Combs, whether it be through his enterprise or through Bad Boy Entertainment. And I think they were trying to establish to the jurors that Combs was not in complete control of every single decision because there were so many people that worked for him in his various businesses. They also, gotta love when that kind of stuff happens, but they also said,
I'm not a lawyer, but I'm in New York, and I attended the Diddy trial in person today. While I was in the overflow room, I didn't make it to the actual courtroom, but
Day 12 of Diddy's trial, and stylist Deontay Nash was back on the stand to finish crossing.
Here's what happened on day 16 of the Diddy trial. A forensics video expert, Frank Piazza, testified that the hotel surveillance video the jury saw was slowed to real time. This is important because the defense is arguing that the video was sped up and is inaccurate. He also said he found 10 sex tape videos under Frank Black's user profile on a laptop. Frank Black, of course, is Diddy's alias. The defense focused on the inconsistent timestamps in the video to argue that they had been edited. This is a big defense theme in the case. Piazza explained that the cameras were not linked to the same internal clock and that the timestamps were motion activated, meaning that they're only updated when the cameras detected movement. Brianna Bongalon took the stand after she too was granted immunity to testify. She was one of Cassie's closest friends, and she saw her with a black eye after the hotel assault. Brianna was asked about the incident where Diddy dangled her over a 17th floor balcony for about 15 seconds, and he threw her onto balcony furniture. While he was doing this, he asked her, "Do you know what the F you did?" She showed jurors bruises and cuts on her legs and bandages on her neck and back. There was another incident on the beach where Diddy got in her face and said, "I'm the devil and I could kill you." There was a third incident where Diddy banged on Cassie's apartment door and threw a knife at her when he came inside. It got pretty close, but didn't hit her. Cassie threw the knife back, but it didn't hit him either. Brianna testified that she and Cassie did drugs together every week. That's probably why she wanted immunity. The balcony incident was described in both the prosecution's superseding indictment and Brianna's lawsuit against Diddy. Cassie asked Brianna to join her original lawsuit against Diddy, but she said no. But Cassie got the date and location of the balcony incident wrong. Cassie said it happened at a hotel, and she thought there was a different person there. Brianna filed her own lawsuit against Diddy regarding the balcony incident, and she's asking for $10 million. The defense cross-examined Brianna over her drug use, and she admitted that both she and Cassie had a serious drug problem. They also tried to highlight even more inconsistencies in her meetings with prosecutors and her demand letter to Diddy. According to the defense, Brianna told prosecutors that Diddy said he would kill her during the balcony incident, not a separate time, and that Diddy groped her breasts on the balcony. Brianna's cross-examination continues tomorrow, and we'll also hear from victim Jane. Here's what happened on day 16 of the Diddy trial. A forensic
drugs, but I didn't do this drug.
Now, the defense tried to paint Brianna Bongolan as an unreliable witness during her cross-examination on day 16 of Diddy's trial, with Nicole Westmoreland pointing out inconsistencies in her testimony, even laughing at one point, and there were many "I don't knows" or "I don't remember" from Brianna. Now, she is testifying under an immunity order, and the defense actually began by saying, "You have immunity as long as what you say today is true, right?" And Brianna answered yes. Now, there's definitely been a lot of conversation online about the fact that she struggled to answer so many questions, but I do actually think what she's trying to do is not say something that could be proved inaccurate because of that immunity order. And let's not forget that these alleged incidents happened almost 10 years ago. I don't think it's totally unheard of to not remember exact specific details, especially when you're recalling trauma. But obviously the defense see her saying she doesn't remember as she's reported things inaccurately. She was repeatedly asked about what she told the prosecution in her first meeting with them in January 2024. You say at a photo shoot, Mr. Combs said, "I could kill you." Brianna answered yes, but at first you told the government it was at a party. She then answered, "I don't know." Your first demand letter said Mr. Combs said, "I could kill you," whilst he hung you over the balcony, and Brianna said he did both, just not at that time. Didn't you first say Mr. Combs essayed you on the balcony? And Brianna answered, "I showed them where his hands were." Nicole Westmoreland continued, "You say he groped your breasts, or your lawyers said it?" And she answered, "My lawyers said that." Brianna then testified that she let her first lawyer go, and we heard this during her direct testimony too, because he'd been sending demand letters with inaccurate information on them. Going back to the 2016 balcony incident, the defense pointed out that Cassie Ventura and Brianna had had conversations about it and what happened after Cassie included it in her civil lawsuit against Diddy. Westmoreland questioned, "This happened at a hotel, true?" She didn't say it like that. You said, "Your apartment, it has a balcony." I didn't say it like that. Cassie told you she never saw you over the balcony. No, ma'am, I don't remember. You and Miss Ventura talked about the date, the place, who was there. True. Your complaint says you were smoking a cigarette on the balcony, not pot. I don't remember. Didn't you tell the prosecutors 2 days ago that you couldn't remember what happened on the balcony? And again, Brianna said, "I don't remember." She was then asked about her substance use that night. Didn't you tell the government you took Molly, G, and Charlie? Brianna answered, "That's a lot of substances." And Westmoreland said, "Didn't you take them all?" And she replied, "Not all on that night." She was then asked if she would agree that she and Cassie had a serious substance abuse problem after listing some of the substances that they would regularly use: pot, Charlie, E, G, Cocoa Puffs, which is apparently a combination of pot and Charlie. Brianna said that yes, they had a problem, and she also admitted to selling substances to Cassie, sometimes hundreds of pills. She was then asked about the alleged knife-throwing incident, with Westmoreland saying that it makes no sense. He just walked in and threw a knife. Brianna answered, "I'm not sure." Didn't you tell the government they used to get into knife fights, plural? Brianna answered again that she didn't remember. You're saying you don't know how he got in to throw the knife, but once he left, you were no longer worried. And Brianna answered, "I don't remember how I felt." When Brianna was then asked if she'd met with the government on May 25th, June 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, she said, "Yeah, that's not long ago." And Westmoreland said, "That's today." And Brianna told the court that she is not good with dates. Now her cross-examination will continue today, although court is starting later at 11 a.m. Now, the defense tried to paint Brianna Bongolan as an unreliable witness during her cross-examination on day 16 of Diddy's trial, with Nicole Westmoreland pointing out inconsistencies in her testimony, even laughing at one point, and there were many "I don't knows" or "I don't remember" from Brianna. Now, she is testifying under an immunity order, and the defense actually began by saying, "You have immunity."
What's up, guys? Welcome back. I'm going to give you an update on the Diddy trial. I was at trial today. I'm still in New York City. I'm sitting over here by Washington Square Park again, as y'all see. So I'm still in the city. So today I'm going to give you an update on Brianna Bongolan. That's Cassie's friend. She was the woman that said that Diddy dangled her over a balcony in the early morning hours of September 2016. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you an update on that. She said Cassie was on lived on the 17th floor at the time. And in the apartment, it was Cassie, it was Bongolan, and Bongolan's ex-girlfriend that was there. And she said that she was just hanging out, being casual. She went to the balcony, just to hang out. And she didn't know how Diddy got an apartment. And Diddy just came up behind her and then lifted her up. And she said she's 5'1" and like 115 pounds at the time. And she said that he was dangling her, and she don't know why. And no, he kept saying to her, "You know what the F you did. You know what the F you did." That's why when he picked up, "You know what the F you did." And she said, then the prosecutor was like, "Well, how did you respond to him?" She said, "I don't know what the F did I do." She said that to him. But let me tell you this real quick. This is very important to know. She received an immunity deal. she received an immunity deal to testify in this case. And you know why she received an immunity deal? Because she was Cassie's supplier. And she made a part of her income was selling to Cassie, if you know what I mean. That was part of her income. Part of her income was selling to Cassie. And so that's why she received an immunity deal for that. And she said he threw her on the furniture, on the patio furniture, on the balcony furniture. And she said Cassie came to the door in disbelief. She came to the door in disbelief and whatnot. That's a big dog, by the way. Just to let y'all know, that's a huge dog. I just want to show you that dog real quick. Ooh, he got a lot to pick up. Oh Lord, he have a scooper, you know, to put in the bag. Ooh, that's a lot of crap to pick up. Ooh. So anyway, let me get back to it. I'm sorry. So she said that when Cassie came to talk to Puff about it, she said, you know, her girlfriend is here, hiding in the bathroom. And she said when Puff heard that, he left. Okay? And then she said shortly after that, she talked to Cassie, and then she went back to her apartment. And then she said a few days, well, she said she went to, they said, well, did you go to the police? She said she didn't go to the police. She went to a chiropractor. And then the chiropractor looked at her and said, who did this to you? And she didn't, she said she was nervous at that point, and she didn't tell the chiropractor that Diddy did this to her. She did. And she never went back to the chiropractor ever again. She said a few days later, she talked to Diddy by way of FaceTime. And he just said to her, he don't want no problems. Diddy said he don't want no problems or whatnot. Right? He don't want no problems. And she still talked to Cassie, and that was it. But they showed pictures of her having back bandages and stuff like that. They showed the picture of her injury. It's pretty significant. She had like a slash on her leg, and it was just bruised and stuff like that. She mentioned January 2nd, 2018. She said, I think it was January 2nd, 2018. She has that tattooed on her body, and that was the day she decided to go sober. And she got in, rehab and stuff like that. But she said before that date, on that date, she partied with Cassie and Puff for 8 hours straight, taking K, or Special K. But she said after that, she got sober, and the rest was history. But she still stayed in contact with Cassie, even though it was kind of fragmented, their relationship. However, to the day, they're cool to this day. They're cool. Now, she did say that she has, to this day, she has effects from this, lasting effects from her whole, she has paranoia. She said when she go home, she gets paranoid that somebody's in there. And she said also, the last time she had nightmares was the other day. Now, she said, this is interesting now, she hired an attorney, and it was Tyrone Blackburn that she hired at first. And she said she didn't agree with some of the details he was putting in the case of the lawsuit. But she has another lawyer now. And, so she has another lawyer now. And I'm going to get into that in a second with the cross-examination. But she did say that she met, that after Cassie filed her lawsuit and she filed her lawsuit, she said she heard from Rob Holiday. He's a producer. And she said that Rob Holiday was in Puff's backyard. She said he was in Puff's backyard when he FaceTimed her. She noticed that he was there. And the reason why he called is because to try to see if she could settle with Puff, outside the court. So, and she said she declined, and then she hung up the phone, and she never heard from Rob Holiday ever again. So I just wanted to say that. But she did file a lawsuit. She has a new lawyer, and she says she's seeking justice for what happened to her. No, she's seeking $10 million because she's requesting $10 million. Now, let's get to the cross-examination with Nicole Westmoreland. So Nicole Westmoreland, man, this cross-examination was crazy. the cross-examination with Nicole Westmoreland. Nicole Westmoreland is a really, really, really good attorney. She's a really good attorney, man. And she mentioned that she had her say that she received an immunity deal to testify. And the reason why, because she was a dealer for Cassie. She was Cassie's friend and a dealer. I mean, she was also a graphic designer as well, but she was also Cassie's dealer. And she said one time she got hundreds and hundreds of things for Cassie, if you know what I mean. And she said something about one of her suppliers, this guy was Ray J. Now everybody in the courtroom reacted to that. They talking about Ray J the singer? Because she mentioned Ray J. That's what she mentioned. So Ray J's name came up. And she said she met with Combs after this whole incident for dinner at his house. And no, when she initially met with Combs, when she first met him, he was kind of standoffish. But she said her and Cassie is friends to this day. Now she said November 2023, she started working with Cassie again, doing different things. And she said they talked about the lawsuit a little bit. But she was, it's like I said, with Nicole Westmoreland, the way she was cross-examining her, man, it was a cross-examination from hell, man. She really did a good job cross-examining Brianna Bengolan. And she said, well, you never told anybody about your neck and back pain until your second lawyer when you were talking to the government. That's when we found out about your back pain for the first time. And she just started crashing on the stand. She said she don't remember this, she don't remember that. She said, can you repeat yourself? She kept asking Nicole Westmoreland to repeat herself. It was crazy. And she's going to be on the stand tomorrow. She's not done. She's going to be on the stand tomorrow. So guys, that's it right now. That is my update. I'm almost done. I got to get out of here. So it's almost done. It's almost 10.
All right, so here was an update. You know that saying, whatever you say can and will be used against you in the court of law? Well, the theme of today's cross-examination of a woman named Bana, who accused Diddy of dangling her off a 17-foot balcony and saying that she had sold and provided drugs to Cassie and also had a habit herself of using them. Well, the theme of today's cross was, if anything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law, anything the government writes down in their notes can and will be used against the witnesses during their testimony. Every single time there was a discrepancy between what the witness was saying on the stand and what the government had written down as notes, you saw the credibility of the witness being chopped away bit by bit. This is also a moment when, for the very first time, really fundamentally in this case, these civil lawsuits became a kind of star witness for the defense. They were really keen on honing in on what was said in those suits, the timeline of whether you filed the lawsuit first or spoke to the government first. That became a running theme for this witness. And there was a moment when the cross really focused on the conversations between Cassie Ventura and the witness Bana about the dates of this alleged dangling of the balcony, about who was or was not there, also about the demand letter that was sent as a civil lawsuit to Diddy. So today, the defense making some headway trying to attack the credibility of this witness, but witnesses in general who were involved in the civil lawsuits. This might be a cautionary tale for some prosecution about how and what is written in the notes and what the witness then remembers specifically saying. All right, so here was an update. You know that saying, whatever you...
Week 4 of the Diddy trial, and things are still not looking good for Diddy. I'm Alex, I'm an attorney. Let's talk about it. So we heard from Mia, who was a former Diddy assistant. She testified that he physically and sexually assaulted her. We also heard today from one of Cassie's friends, and she testified about this specific incident that Cassie had testified about, which was the fact that Diddy was dangling her friend over a 17th floor balcony. And she did testify to that. He was allegedly holding her by the waist over a 17th floor balcony. She was shaking. How could you not be shaking? That would be terrifying. She also testified about drug use, her own drug use, as well as Cassie's drug use. So why is her testimony important? Well, her testimony is important because she was not one of Diddy's girlfriends, or even an alleged girlfriend. So this is establishing his violent tendencies towards people outside of a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. And if you remember, defense's entire kind of defense here is this was all consensual. Yeah, he's a bad boyfriend, he's an asshole, domestic violence, he definitely does that, but none of this other stuff. Well, this is the other stuff. This friend, Brianna Bongolin, also does have a lawsuit against Diddy. She's seeking $10 million. She wants justice for what happened to her. She's still going through cross-examination, but that will probably be wrapped up tomorrow, and then we will move on to another witness. Week 4 of the Diddy trial, and things are still not looking good for Diddy. I'm Alex, I'm an attorney. Let's talk about it. So we heard from... By the way, Diddy finally looked shook. Yeah.
Let's break down everything that happened in the afternoon of the Diddy trial today, Wednesday, June 4th, which includes the direct and the cross-examination of Brianna. I'm an attorney and I read what happened, so you don't have to. After lunch, the prosecutor directed Brianna back to the incident that she described at Cassie's Los Angeles apartment. Brianna testified that she was asleep on the couch with her ex-girlfriend at the time, when she heard Combs banging on the door. And Cassie was in the bedroom. Brianna took her ex-girlfriend to the guest bedroom and went to the balcony to appear casual. She said, "I didn't want to expose her to the things that I had seen." She testified that she was about to light a substance when Combs came out. He came up behind me, he lifted me up, and he had me on top of the rail.
John Diddy Combs was taken to the hospital last night. According to reports, around 10 p.m., he was taken from his holding place at Brooklyn MDC to the hospital to get an MRI. Initially, there was a lot of speculation that Diddy either got into a fight or had some type of medical emergency, but apparently a medical insider has said that that was really not the case. The insider also said that he was taken there because his knee was bothering him, citing a long history of knee issues after he ran the New York Marathon. This insider also says that there were a couple reasons why this was done late at night. The first one is to prevent any further speculation or rumors from forming, but the other reason was to try to prevent people from knowing that he would be there in case that somebody wanted to try to free him or break him out or something like that. Now, when asked for confirmation about this, the Bureau of Prison spokesperson basically said that we don't comment on our inmates' medical conditions. Now, we haven't had a ton of Diddy updates lately, but do bear in mind that his trial is scheduled to start May 5th, and we are still covering any updates that continue to come out, and there was one actually last week as well, where additional charges were added to the federal indictment. Now, that being said, if you don't already, make sure that follow button so you stay up to date on all of these updates and stories, and of course, drop your thoughts about Diddy's late.
Y'all hit the like button, subscribe button, follow me for more updates.
Day 18 of the Diddy trial took a dramatic turn this afternoon. Let's break it down. No fluff, just facts.
Follow me for more updates. Thank y'all for watching. I'm thinking... Yeah, thank y'all for watching. Follow me, like, and subscribe for more updates.